Hi everybody, it's Joni Young here. Welcome back for another painting tutorial in acrylics. As you can see, I've got some fun colors over here. This is my leftover paint from my tutorial and video I just wrapped up. This one here, Lightning on the Sea. There's going to be a full tutorial step by step for you all of this. However, I mentioned during the filming that I had way too much paint that I put out on my palette, so I'm going to make use of it and do another quick tutorial, intuitive one, just on the spot right now. I'm not too sure what I'm going to do, but this should be fun, and I want to invite you guys all to watch and paint along with me. I've got a fine misting spray bottle here. I'm just going to wet down my canvas with first, and I'm going to take my large 50 Filbert brush here and just spread that evenly around the canvas. Now, I have been painting a lot of mountains lately, so that's kind of fresh in my mind, and I don't think I'm finished with that series yet. I haven't quite got it out of my system, so I think I'm going to start painting a mountain scene. And let's see, let's take some white and some red, and I'm just going to start feathering that into the canvas around the top portion. Maybe I'll add a little bit down here as well. Maybe we'll have a little lake scene here and have some reflections. Okay, without washing my brush out, I think I'll go into my black, a little bit of white, maybe a little bit of green. Mix that up. Take a little bit more white in there, soften that. Push and pull and turn to load your brush. And let's see, I think I'll have some mountains coming in from the right here. I'm going to turn my brush this way and slide it up and down, and then I'm going to just pull down and sweep like this. I'm going to make some of these have a few more little peaks to them, and I'll be using a different brush because this one is really leaving too much of a texture and too many lines there. But I'm just going to pull this down here like this and then sweep down at the base. And I'm going to come in right down here and add a little line that goes across, and then pull down below, cross very lightly. I'm going to take one of my mop brushes that's dry, and I'm just going to lightly brush over just to soften this. This is how you can make your acrylics look kind of like an oil painting. You get those really soft, blurry lines, or get rid of any lines. You can take out as much as you want. And I'm going to do the same here. Use this just to pull down a little bit this way and that way so we get different angles starting to take shape in our mountain. And I'm going to use a smaller Filbert brush, my number 14 here, and I'll just load my brush with that paint that's already mixed up, same color, and I'm going to make this a little bumpier looking. I'm going to take a little bit of white now, and I'm going to turn my brush over like this and just use the bottom or belly of the brush to scrape a little bit of texture, peaks, and light. add maybe some glaciers in here. And all that snow just gets flat and packed down. And I'm going to add a little bit of red and white to my brush, and then come in with a few more bits of light on here. Barely touching the canvas. You can add these little scoops as well. Come down, scoop. Let's add one right in here. Okay, then I'll take a little bit of black and I'm going to add that sparingly in between so we can get some darker shadows. It's going to help our mountain look a little more 3D. And we're going to go right along the base here. Add a few rocks and land down here at the base. So to add rocks, you just kind of push and go over. Add another one right here. A couple that are just sticking out of the water. I'm going to go back over to my large Filbert brush and just soften where we left off, pulling off a little bit of that paint while it's still wet. You can soften any areas that you want and kind of guide the direction that you want your rocks to be going in. If you want to have peaks and edges that turn and go this way, you can just change that by the angle you drag and pull your brush with. Okay, I'm going to take my green, a little bit of black and green, and I'm going to line my brush up like this, turn the handle to point up. I'm going to pull up the forest, some rows of trees here, and right at the base. And then I'm going to gently pull down below. I might pull off a little bit of rocks. Take a little bit of white in with that, mix those up, and start a little bit lower and then a little bit higher. Take a little bit more white. And now this time, I'm going to turn the brush this way. And I'm going to tap. And then when I get to here, I'm just going to gently pull up so that it goes a little bit lower there. And then is a bit higher here on the right side. I'm going to do the same thing. Below. I'm going to use my small flat brush. This is a number 20. And I'm just going to wisp softly, a little bit of water in my brush, hardly any at all though. Careful, you don't want to have any drips. I'm going to go into my red, slide that along the bottom, and I'm going to just bring that right over. And add it to part of the mountains here, just lightly pulling and dragging. I'm going to use a really small Filbert brush. This one's a number 4. And I think I'm going to add some white and green and make it look like there's some frost on these trees. So I'm just going to add a few lines like this, space them out. Add a little indication that there's some below as well. For this step of painting and tapping the branches, you want to load the end of your brush and then leave a little bit of a line before you start tapping. I like to leave the bottom of the trees just dark so I don't go right down with this light turquoise shade. So I'm painting wet on wet right now, but yours can be dry and you can just apply the same technique. It's just a little gentle stipple. You don't even have to have a line for a tree trunk, but it can kind of help you gauge where you add your trees. I'm just going to turn my brush sideways like this with a little amount of, very thin amount of that light turquoise that we just used. And just go up and down like this, sliding. And I've got a little bit on the end of my brush like this. I'm gonna go just on the other side of the red and add some more details to the mountain here. An interesting color combination. That's why I wanted to not wait and not try to plan anything, and just as soon as I finished recording that last tutorial for the stormy seascape, I wanted to just jump in, hit record, and do this right away and see where it took me and what this would turn into. And you know, it's just a nice exercise, keeps your creativity fresh. And then loop up like this. Add a little bit in the water. Some messier little taps so that it looks like a blurry version of what's up top. I'm going to be a little bit more generous with my white now. And a little bit of extra snow or frost to these trees. And then these ones are a little farther away, so we can just do a little tap this way, tap up this way. I'm going to take more white on the end of my brush, and I'm going to emphasize these snowy peaks. You could add little lines like this here and there. So you don't want to lose all of the bits of turquoise. We just want to enhance this with a few more shades. Just turning my brush this way using the edge of it. I'm going to add another row of sort of frost, make it look kind of frosty. You can even kind of go over and create some low-lying fog. Get the paint on your brush and then work the majority of it out so you're left with more of a dry brush like this. You can bring it up, travel up higher with it, and maybe it'll look like the fog's going up here, possibly some clouds. I'm going to take a little bit more red, a little bit of white in there. Scatter some of this around. And a little bit more white, brighten that pink up in some areas. I'm going to add a little bit of green into my red and my white. And we'll get this really pretty shade of plum. It's quite nice. And just add a little bit of land down below, a little bit of frost or light skiff of snow right there. Add just a little bit more green in here. And I'm going to just travel with this up here and add to it a little bit of white. See how quickly you can change a painting. I hope this is getting your creative juices flowing. You guys are picking up some tips here today. Let's go hop over to our black and our green and pull that right below. Come in and add a little extra edge. I'm going to have a few of these trees come out a little bit closer over the water. So I'm being a little more generous with the amount of white that I'm using. And I'm going to tap this closer to the water's edge. I'm going to add a little bit of height here to these rocks and build up a little bit more snow. Well, I didn't know where I was going to go with this when I first started, but it's been kind of interesting. Got a few more little snowy trees. Because my white is tinted with the turquoise, this is going to dry a little bit darker than what you see here. So if you really want your whites to stand out, you might have to wait for it to dry and then come over top with another layer. And I'll find a little forest of trees over here. And just add a little bit more of a snowbank. We're left with a little hint of that light pink under there, which is quite pretty. Okay, I think I just want to have another tree here, maybe a larger one. One that's a little bit heavier with snow. And then I'm going to add a few little bits of ice on the water. Just simply pulling with a little bit of white. You can make it look up here like a thin sheet of ice in certain areas. And here with a little bit more. Push a little harder to release some of that turquoise out, kind of a grayish turquoise. There. Finish off with a little mint shade under clouds here. Okay, well, this was really interesting. I had no idea what this is gonna end up looking like or what the end result would be. I hope that you guys want to try this technique. Follow along and paint this with me today if you want. I hopefully made it an easy to follow along tutorial. And have a wonderful day. I'll see you guys all soon in my next video. Bye!